Okay, before we jump into the video, this is the future me, and I've had the lift on for about a month now, and I hope you watch it till the end because let me tell you, this lift did not go as I expected. It wasn't mechanically difficult to install, but all the adjustability and everything that came with the Fox suspension, which I absolutely love, and I'll tell you more about it as the video goes on, is actually pretty difficult to get it leveled out on the 4runner. The first tip I have, measure both sides of the 4runner's ride height. I only measure the driver's side, as you'll see in the video, and let me tell you, when I got done, I actually didn't know if the 4runner was level before I got the aftermarket suspension put on or not, and so be sure to check all four corners of that. And then the second thing, I don't know if this is just a myth on the internet or not, the left-hand side of the 4runner with the non-KDSS does have a slight lean to it where it will be lower than the right side, or at least it does on my TRD Off-Road non-premium edition. And let me show you here real quick. With the factory struts pulled off, you can actually see that the coil springs, one is wrapped tighter than the other, and I have no idea which one is the driver's side or which one is the passenger side. And unless someone told me that, I would have actually never looked to see that they were different. So something from Toyota actually makes the 4runner different from the factory to adjust for ride height because the coil springs are actually different. You can see it in the windings how one is tighter than the other. So throughout the video, I'll be jumping back in and telling you where some of the difficulties are and go from there. So let's jump into the video. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name's Tim and this is Tim the Trailman. And today I'm finally getting around to installing the suspension kit on Roxanne. In the last video, I went over everything that I'm putting on Roxanne, so I'll link that in the description below. And today we'll just learn how I put on the suspension for the front and the back for the Fox 2.5 DSC suspension system. So let me know in the comments below if you'd have done it differently or any tips that I could learn from you. And so let's get started. Okay, so before we get started, I wanted to make sure that the 3-inch lift kit in the front and the 2-inch lift kit in the back was gonna make the difference that I'm hoping for. So we need a before measurement. And the way that I do it is I measure from the bottom of the wheel to the highest point on the fender wheel arch. And so on here, we're about 28 3/4. And so I'm gonna put that in my memory for the front, and then let's move to the back. Okay, and so for the back, same thing, from the bottom of the wheel to the highest point on the wheel arch, and we're about 30 3/4 of an inch. So let's see after I get done with the 3-inch in the front and the 2-inch in the back, if they're actually the same height. And a quick note, the reason why I measure from the bottom of the wheel, it takes away tire pressure or tire size in the future. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is pull down the skid plates and lower the sway bar. We have a relocation bracket for that. To the spacer. And then as a pro tip, when you're working on the suspension, you're going to take the wheel speed sensor out. There's tons of things online about people having ABS problems after they get done with a lift kit. So my hunch is they leave the wire attached. When the spindle falls, the wire is stretched and you can't see it, and it causes problems down the road. We got the ABS wire removed from the spindle. Now we've got the nut loose on the upper control arm, and we're gonna whack it with a hammer to knock it loose. We leave the nut on there so as the spindle slides down it, it won't mess up the threads immediately. And we can control how fast it falls.
That's not a very big hammer.
Ta-da! So taking loose that upper control arm bolt, it's a mile long. You can see it goes up into the engine bay down there. So we got to reach in there and take that out. So that's how long the bolt is that came out of the upper control arm. So Justin, why are you putting that ratchet strap on the spindle right now?
When we pull all the weight off of the spindle, it's going to want to lay the spindle flat. You'll potentially damage the axle popping out of the boot. So we're pulling it back so that way it won't damage the axle while when we're taking all the stuff off.
Hey, the driver's side bolt came out a lot easier than the passenger side bolt, just FYI. Okay, real quick, I don't see this in a lot of the videos, but while Justin is doing that, once we get the new coilover in and the upper control arm, we're actually gonna take these eccentric bolts out of the lower control arm. I'm not replacing the lower control arm, but these eccentrics are known to freeze or rust up on 4runners and Lexus GXs. So we're gonna just remove them, clean them up with a wire wheel and then put some anti-seize on them. So then doing alignments in the future will be a breeze. These have actually seized up, had to be cut out or cut off and just destroying things. So if you're doing this repair, just go ahead and go the extra mile and take care of those eccentric bolts while you're down there. So this is the factory 4runner stamped steel upper control arm. You can see how kind of dinky it is as a factory control arm for an off-road vehicle. And then here's the Dirt King upper control arm with the uniball and the bushings. So much beefier, bigger area, more articulation for the aftermarket coilovers. So they sent it with some grease fittings. You just want to put those in the control arm before you put the control arm in the car and make it easier. And then we'll add some grease through the fittings once it's installed to keep everything nice and greased up, brand new. Okay, so out of the box, the new Fox 2.5 DSCs with the reservoir, they're set to the same height as the factory 4runner coilovers. So what we're going to do is compress this coil spring, turn this collar down, and then that's where our height will come. I did a little bit of research and asked some friends. Roughly 22 threads down will give me that full 3-inch lift with no extra weight on the front bumper. Hey, it's me again. Okay, everything I'm talking about right now is pretty much useless because the guy I talked to on Instagram did give me good information. Overall, his thread count was way off, and when I put it down to the 22 threads that he had told me, my car wound up like this. Then we ultimately had to race down to the dealership, which I have no video of, take the coilovers back out, use heavy equipment at the shop to readjust them, and then lower that ride height. Even after readjusting it to the dealership, we put it on the alignment rack and it looked like this as it rolled by with quick video. Then ultimately, about a week later, I still had to take it back to the store to get it lowered again because it was still too high. So overall, you want to know what you're getting into. The guy on Instagram did have a bumper and a winch that was pushing down the front, but he was just below 3 inches, so I thought if I did what he did, then it ultimately would come out to be the same height, and I was way wrong on that. So this is how you would be using coil spring compressors in a quick time lapse here to run them down and then move that collar. Some people will tell you online that you can compress the spring, turning the collar with punches or chisels or a special tool and some never cease. These were brand new and I like to keep them shiny, so we went ahead and used the compressor and then just spun them easily by hand and then tightened down the lock bolt. Okay, so we're going to wrap up the video there. Overall, I did not get much video on the rear. Nothing really worthy to mention back there. I am running the Fox 2.0 remote reservoir with a 2-inch spring back there. But it's been about a month now that I've had the lift on there. The car is sitting almost as level as it can be. That's not noticeable without a tape measure. I'm loving the way it rides, and it's been so good that even my wife and mother-in-law have both approved. So as always, remember to hit that subscribe button for more content like this. And I always appreciate you watching and everyone's support. So I'll see you on the next video.